Okay, everybody, welcome back to Talk of the Now podcast. And this is Gene with you once again. And today I'm with my good buddy and old friend, Jay Plyburn. Jay is a special guest that I want to have on today because he has a pretty diverse background. He comes from well, a lot of different fields, acting and being a news anchor and a few other things. So I thought that he'd be a great guest to have on today, just to sort of talk about his background and maybe even give us some advice on what he does, especially in the acting field. Jay, how you doing, man?
I am good. Thanks so much for having me on here.
Yeah. So how are you? I know that you moved to Michigan lately. So how long have you
Yeah,
been in Michigan first off, and then I'll ask you about your background.
the Mitten State, one of many names it has, moved here in January, so about 6 months ago, and I had never really spent any time here prior to that.
Wow. Okay. So tell
Yeah.
me about your background. I know that you well I know you're into acting and you do
Mhm.
some anchoring on television and that sort of thing for television news. So I guess kind of tell me if you want to get a little bit into your where you grew up and then what you did
Sure.
for college and then what you did after that and how you kind of got to where you are now.
Yeah, it's kind of a complicated background story as to how I got to where I am, but I grew up in Huntington, West Virginia. And I grew up in a very theatrical family. My parents were involved in musical theater, both in the local community and at church. And so I did all of the above growing up. We were taken to auditions for commercials and whatnot in the local community there, but then also did the theater scene. And we were constantly singing and things at church. And then I did show choir in high school. So very much a performance based upbringing, which fueled this desire in me to entertain. And so when I got to college, I wasn't sure which direction to go. I ended up studying business management for a couple of years, and then I did an acting and modeling conference to which these talent agents said, I don't know if business is going to open as many doors for you as something involving a theater degree, or someone mentioned broadcast journalism, the ability to learn about the camera and how to be comfortable in front of it. So I took that route. I studied journalism for the idea of honing my skills in front of the camera, with this idea of I'm going to move to Hollywood and be the next action movie star. Um, so I got my degree in broadcast journalism. I did not move to Hollywood. Actually, reality set in, and I had bills to pay, and it's always been expensive to live in California. So I just took work where I could get it, and I kept getting jobs in TV news. And so, yeah, TV news has been a great career path for me. My first journalism job was in West Texas as a news reporter slash weekend weatherman, and had a lot of fun out there. That turned into a news anchor opportunity as a weekend anchor, which took me to Northwest Arkansas, where I eventually became the main anchor for the CBS affiliate out there. And then I pursued my passions in entertainment wholeheartedly. Went to Atlanta, Georgia, to pursue acting opportunities, and did some great work there as far as acting and producing TV pilots and some film projects. And then the journalism door opened once again. NBC Atlanta made me a great offer to be a reporter there. So all of a sudden, I was once again balancing acting and TV news, and eventually ended up here in Michigan as now morning anchor for the ABC News affiliate here, and still doing the acting on the side. So that's a long answer to probably a quick question, but that's how I got here.
No, that's great. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Like I know you I guess what I was going to ask you what led to acting, but you essentially answered that. Where did you go to college, by the way?
Marshall University.
Oh, the
Go
Great
her.
Marshall.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that. We Are Marshall movie, by the way.
Yeah. Well, it's a fun fact. They filmed that on our campus my senior year. And that was kind of like my first real taste of Hollywood, to see the film crews come in and the setup of the jibs and all the camera gear and lighting. And I was already kind of fascinated by the movie industry anyway, but then to see it firsthand get set up on campus there, all the extras that they brought in. My mom and I actually did an open casting call out there, and we were both cast as extras in there. So my first real taste of Hollywood was with We Are Marshall, filmed on campus there,
Ah,
and it was super cool. Matter of fact, we made enough money through being extras that my dad got our whole family tickets to the premiere there in Huntington, and so got to see the movie for the first time with the actors and the producers and McGee who directed it. Got to meet Matthew
Wow.
McConaughey and Matthew Fox and all this. So that was really one of the things that kind of instilled in me this idea of maybe there's a future for me in acting. And so I was just an
Yeah.
extra. I didn't have any lines, but I did make it on screen a few times in the movie. So that was my early claim to fame.
Oh, you did make it a few times. Oh, cool.
Yeah, you can see me in there.
I've only seen it one time. I need to rewatch it.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you where to look for me. If you pause it
Okay.
at just the right moment, you can see me very well.
Okay, you'll have to message that to me because I'll
Yeah,
I'll
well,
rent it again and rewatch it because I've got a mutual friend buddy that we've talked about before, Mr. Garrett Moore, that was actually an extra in it,
yeah.
and I think he did it while they were in Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken.
So yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that Garrett was in there as well, but they did film a good portion of it in Huntington because of,
Uh-huh.
that's where the story takes place. But then a lot of the football scenes were filmed in Atlanta, so he may have already been in Atlanta by the time they were
Yeah,
shooting that. So
yeah.
yeah, he could have shot up there in Georgia.
I remember him posting some of the extra scene. I guess he might have done it under the radar, but he like posted a few pictures of him in his dress and everything like that. I think he may have played
Yeah.
a security guard,
Oh, cool.
but
You wouldn't even recognize me in the movie because it's a period piece, right? So they put me in. I actually think they had the wardrobe from that '70s show that they were putting the cast in, and so I'm there in a little tight button-up orange sweater. I have horn-rimmed glasses on, and actually the first day of shooting, they had told all men that are able to grow facial hair show up with facial hair with a beard if you can grow it. So I had this awesome beard. And they came around and they said, okay, you keep the beard, you shave the beard, you keep the beard, to all these different guys. They got to me and they said, shave it down into a mustache and let the sideburns come all the way down. So I've got this real gross looking mustache and
oh wow.
sideburns coming. It wasn't a good look for me, but whatever. It was a
Yeah.
paying job.
Yeah, no kidding. So I was that was going to be my other thing to ask if you met McConaughey for very long or not. But
Very briefly, and it was at the after party of the premiere. I think he was slightly intoxicated,
uh-huh.
but he was enjoying himself. He had just seen the premiere of a movie he's starring in, so he was celebrating a little bit. Rumor had it he was actually being asked to leave the VIP section because he had, I'll use the term, gotten sick on the table. I don't know if that's true or not. I never heard if that was true or not, but
Mhm.
heard that he was partying a little bit hard in Huntington that night. So who knows?
Well, at the very least, I think about Matthew McConaughey that he's one of the good ambassadors, I think, in Hollywood these days. A lot of them get a bad rap, and
Yeah.
I think about McConaughey. He has a lot of good things to say and a lot of good things for people. Because I don't know, when you were in Atlanta, we'll guest transfer or sorry transition into the Atlanta experience. How was that? How long were you in Atlanta, and how was the acting experience for you, even before you got your anchor job there and during that time?
Atlanta was a great experience. I went there kind of sight unseen, not knowing anybody. Now I have an aunt and a cousin who lives there, um, but they don't live in the city. They live outside Atlanta, and so I didn't know much about Atlanta when I went there, other than it was kind of the place to be. Georgia as a whole, the place to be for TV and film productions, and that's why I went there. Um, I thoroughly enjoyed my time there. I was only there for a few years. The big takeaway, the big win was I met a girl there and fell in love and got married there and now live a happy life, here in Grand Rapids with her. Um,
Yeah.
but one of the other things that I wanted to do there was really hit the ground running as far as working in the industry there. And I was given a lot of different pieces of advice. Jump onto a film set if you can. Go work behind the scenes, regardless, of what you want to do. If it's being in front of the camera or behind the camera, just go try to get whatever work you can get. And I just wasn't sure how to go about that. So I was given advice. Actually, I met a lady, Melissa Simpson, my first day in town, and she pointed me in the right direction. She said, you should go check out Nick Conti Professional Actor Studio.
Mhm.
She said there's a lot of good people over there. There's a lot of talent in that studio, and I think you'll like Nick. So one of my first weeks in town, I visited this actor's studio and really did get a good vibe. And I had read reviews online, talking about how long the studio had been there in town, 20 some odd years. And so I went and started introducing myself to people. Everybody was very nice. I auditioned for Nick and got accepted into the advanced acting class. That was within my first couple months in Atlanta. And so, and actually my first night in class got partnered with a guy named Amandre, who to this day is one of my best friends. I co-produced a couple TV pilots with him a couple years ago, and think the world of him. And we met through that acting class. So just within that little acting school, made great connections, which developed into paying jobs and some great opportunities. And but yeah, as a whole, Atlanta was great. I guess kind of my big claim to fame out of that area was I was cast as a reporter on The Resident, which is an ongoing medical drama on Fox. I would say it pays to know people. I had started dating Whitney at the time, who I'm now married to, and her cousin is the creator of the show and the main writer on the show. And early on, she had reached out to her cousin to say, "Hey, I'm falling in love with this guy, and I think there's a chance he might leave," because at the time there was a potential job opportunity for me with QVC, based out of Philadelphia, just outside of Philadelphia, and it was a crazy on-air job. It was like a $250,000 contract, and I was gung-ho all about it. They flew me to New York for an interview, and it looked like everything was going my way. It did not. They passed over me for the job, but all the while she had reached out to her cousin to say, he's trying to be an actor in Atlanta, so if there's ever an opening on your show. Well, came time they needed a news reporter for one of the episodes, and they didn't just give me the gig, which would have been nice, but they sent me an email and said, "You would like you to audition for this since you have experience as a news reporter." So I auditioned for it like however many other people did as well, and I got the part. They said okay, so I was cast as a news reporter in one episode with like one line. It was 3 or 4 sentences. Looked like I was doing a live shot out there, microphone in hand, and one episode turned into 2 episodes, turned into 3, and eventually I was able to do 6 episodes in season 2, which was great. Just to have that on my resume, to be officially a SAG-AFTRA.
That got you the SAG. Okay.
Well, it could have gotten me the SAG. I never paid my dues. I didn't actually become a member of SAG, but what's the term I'm looking for? I'm SAG eligible because I had enough lines in this network show. But more than that, it was just a great experience just to be on set, to work with these different directors of the different episodes, and to be, kind of mingling with some of the cast members there. Just being in a trailer on set, it was a fantastic experience, and I'm hopeful that I can do more work in that regard. But that was the big thing in Atlanta, was getting to be a part of The Resident. That also got me signed with a really good agency, Atlanta Models Talent, who then got me another gig on a show called Insatiable, which was on Netflix, where I got to play a kind of an unsavory news anchor. It was a fun role, but saying lines that no news anchor would ever actually say. And so that was a lot of fun. So yeah, that was kind of the extent of my acting experience in Atlanta.
Yeah, well, part of that I haven't mentioned yet is that I met Jay through the acting school, because I decided to take some of the classes myself. I did it for about 6 months, 5 months maybe. And that was a good experience. But just having you as my teacher was a good experience itself, because
thank you.
I had, you're welcome. I did a few makeup classes. One of them was with Nick himself for his Thursday beginner class. And I did a couple of the improv classes there for makeups. And I'd also, because of scheduling, had to go with another one of the teachers there. And I honestly am losing his name at the moment, but his class was on a Monday night.
It could have been Scott or Franco.
It was Scott
or Matt.
That's who it was.
Scott?
Yeah. Forget Scott's last name too, but he was a cool guy. And just contrasting your 3 teaching styles was so different. I actually think that your style of teaching appealed to me more than the others, just because I don't know, I tend to have more of a I guess I'm a romantic at heart or something like that. And I don't know, maybe it's just sort of we meshed in a lot of ways that I could understand what you were trying to get me to do or whatever. I like Nick a lot, and a lot of times it felt drill sergeant-y, if that makes any sense. The same with Scott, which
Scott Oakley.
Yeah, Scott Oakley. Yeah, which is fine. I don't mind that, but it's sort of the iron sharpening iron, I guess, approach maybe.
Right.
But it was
I
good.
did. I did enjoy teaching at that studio too. Nick gave me a grand opportunity, within my first year out there to say, I think you'd make a good teacher. So I started teaching that adult beginners class, which is how I met you and a lot of other very
Hmm.
talented people out there. And that was a cool experience just because it kept me in the mix with what was going on. I was constantly hearing from students about, hey, there's an audition for this, or there's, a student film happening on this day. And it gave me an opportunity to not only do what I love, which is the acting and the entertaining, but then help other people pursue their passions, which
Hmm.
was just the best of both worlds. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. Of course, the pandemic really changed everything out there.
Oh yeah.
But that's a whole other story.
Well, I liked it because, and I think I'm glad you mentioned the studio because that's one of the things I was going to ask you about too. Is that so many people are like me. I'm a creative by nature. I like to draw and paint. I like to get into things like acting. But I always thought to myself, how do I even take that first step as somebody that has no family, no connections of any kind? And, someone's out there and they're like, how do I even take that first step? And to
Mhm.
me, that was a great answer is that you get into doing that. You actually get in there to dig in the ditches, if you will.
Yeah, jump in and do it. And that's the great thing about a lot of those acting classes is, for one, you can usually go audit a class for free, so you can kind of see what you're getting yourself into.
Mhm.
And then if you decide to go down that path and get a single class or a month of classes or a year's worth of classes or whatever, then you're forced to participate, and pretty quick whether you're going to like it or not. And your nerves are all involved and you don't know what to say. And yeah, it's a great way to learn, to jump in the middle. And it's like anything. I mean, the more you do it, the better you get at it. I saw so many people come into that actor studio, really no idea what they were doing, and they didn't have a resume, they didn't have a reel, and so they just started. They would, maybe they were good at improv, but they didn't do well with memorizing lines, or the other way around. And so we would work on the things that they weren't as good at, and next thing you know, they've got their headshots, and they've got a couple auditions, and they do a couple student films or low budget films, and then they have a resume. And it was really nice to watch how people advanced, from going, basically going from nothing, no experience, to a little bit of experience, to, and some of these people, I hope are taking me in the industry by storm right now. I haven't kept up with everybody, but
Mhm.
there's a lot of opportunities out there for actors, and so that was great to be part of that.
Yeah, I really enjoy the experience because it taught me a lot about just generally what your weaknesses are and what you need to think about when I mean, not just for acting, but it's easy to look from the outside in at actors and think to yourself, they're just playing pretend, you know.
Right.
And then when you actually get to it and you've got to memorize the lines and you've got to hit your points, your marks, if you will, it's a whole different ball game.
It's tough. It's crazy, actually. There's a thousand things to think about when you're on set somewhere, and hopefully you can just zone in and be present and do what you're supposed to do. But it is difficult. And I had a few moments on set through my life where I totally spaced on the lines, and it's always embarrassing to just have someone,
Yeah.
feed you the line.
It gave me a whole new appreciation for people like, I don't know, some of my favorite actors, Harrison Ford and Tom Hanks. It gave me a whole new appreciation for them
Oh
that
yeah.
they make it look so easy when they're up there.
Some of those guys have been doing it for a while too. So a lot of it's second nature for them, I think. But still, the
Yeah.
preparation that goes into it, they spend months preparing for some of those roles that, or even years preparing for roles that'll shoot over 2 weeks, and then it's done. So, but it pays off.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks has won what, two Oscars, and they've both got huge bodies of work. So
Yeah. I know that with mine, I did learn that I am good with improv and I'm just saying if I had to assess something, but I also learned that I'm terrible with lines and memorizing lines. That was the biggest thing that I got out of that class and from doing the improv class. Um, one girl gave me a great compliment when I did the 2 nights of the improv class. She said that I was a natural at it. I don't know what made her say that, but that was a nice compliment. Um,
I don't remember you being terrible at line memorization, but I don't know. It's been a couple of years,
it
so
was just hard for me, like just sitting down and trying to memorize when to hit my Mark, because I have a learning disability by nature, like just reading comprehension is just something
Mhm.
it takes me like 2 months to read a book that would normally take somebody 4 weeks, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That
There are some
was,
different techniques out there. I actually heard about one recently that I thought was interesting. I had an opportunity to interview some actors out here filming a TV show
uh-huh.
um, called The Watchers that will hit a faith-based streaming platform here in early 2022. But the lead actor, Kevin Porter, was saying that what he does when he has a lot of dialogue or a lot of lines to memorize is he will record himself saying the lines and then put his earbuds in, and regardless of what he's doing, cooking, cleaning, riding a bike, whatever, he will listen to the lines play back into his ears. And I'd never heard of that technique, but
Hmm.
don't knock it till you tried it. So maybe
Yeah.
that's something to try moving forward, is to listen to yourself saying the lines. And of course, when he read them, he was just reading them off of paper. He didn't have them memorized.
Yeah.
And then he listens to them, he plays them back. So I just thought that was interesting. That was a new one for me.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely something that I agree with Nick that I learned from that. And correct me if I'm wrong, I doubt I am, but that acting is it's one of those things like there's no degrees, there's no, master's program. It's just an ongoing learning experience where you're going to learn
Right.
something over the rest of your life the more you
Right.
do it.
Exactly. Well, and it's one of those things too, where I think, yeah, you can study it, you can read about it. Certainly, it can help to read screenplays to understand, the different types of dialogue out there and different interactions in the cinematic world.
Mhm.
But you just got to jump in and do it and try it, because a lot of people will find that, yeah, it does look easy, but it is not, and it's not for them. And maybe they want to be that person on camera, but then the nerves are so ridiculous that when they get out there, that it's not worth it to them. They would, they'd rather be behind the scenes. So you really have to just jump in and try it. And improv is a totally different beast, because you can, I mean, there's totally different preparation methods for that. I don't consider myself very good at improv. I like improv a lot. And I've had a lot of fun with it through the years, but you really just got to think on your feet and just keep an open mind to what's going on. That's
Yeah.
a different animal.
So I would imagine not many of us, even like people that are aspiring actors, um, are able to actually get on a set, all the camera, the director's there, you're on a whatever modest, big budget thing, and the director is about to say action or whatever. When the first time you do that, is your heart just pounding?
Oh yeah, 100%. I remember being on the set of The Resident for that first episode
Uh-huh.
a couple years ago, and it's it was, especially, it would have been one thing if it was just a small film crew and me, but it was not. There were close to 100 extras behind me that they were queuing first, and then the queue came for the camera movement in front of me, and then eventually I got queued. So if I messed up my lines, everybody behind me had to start over again, plus the dozen or so film crews. So it was like the pressure was
Dang.
really, really mounting. I'm like, so all I was doing is they were counting down as I was just thinking, okay, I was just going through my lines over and over again in my head. I know this. And again, it wasn't but a couple sentences. And as it was, it went well, but man, my heart was racing. It was racing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nerve wracking,
I
because
was
you don't
gonna,
want to be that guy that messes it up for everybody else and they have to stop and start over, pull the camera back to one. And, you know,
watching the director go, oh gosh, we got to do it
yeah,
again.
yeah. Who hired this guy?
I've been an extra in about 5 or 6 movies, maybe three different Marvel movies. And
Oh, cool.
just standing there as an extra watching the whole, charade and circus go around. I mean, that's just, as an extra, you're basically, they call you background for Pete's sake, because I mean, you're you're basically like furniture, for lack of a better, moving furniture.
Right.
So I mean, that's a bad way to put it, but it's really cool. If nobody's ever been an extra, you should be an extra at least one time if you ever just want to see how intricate the process is. Um,
Oh yeah. Well, it gives you an appreciation for what all goes into the filmmaking too, though, right? Because a lot of times,
yes.
if you're watching a movie, you're not necessarily watching the background. You're watching the leads. You're watching the stars. That's why they get paid the big bucks. That's what you're looking at. But if you do background work or extra work, you will start paying attention to the background in movies and TV shows, because you'll see, you know how those people have been trained now. Okay, they're told they got to walk from point A to point B, and then they do it over and over and over again, where
Mhm.
they go through the different. So it gives you kind of a new appreciation for the filmmaking process. I got to be an extra on a couple sets when I first moved to Atlanta, and actually was directed by Jason Bateman in a
Oh,
scene that he was
cool.
also starring in Ozark, which blew my mind. The fact that he could jump back and forth between actor and director was just incredible. That has since become one of my favorite shows. But yeah, it's good to do the background work. I think it can be long, tedious days for not much pay. But if you have the time to do it and you're interested in that industry, yeah, I would recommend somebody jump onto a set as a background, just so you can kind of see the flow of things and understand this is why the filmmaking process takes so long, because there are just so many moving parts. And I'm going to look for you in the Marvel movies now, Gene.
Oh yeah, I'll send you. I'll let you know. Just let me know which. I'll tell you which movies and where to look for me.
We just got Disney Plus, so I'll get in the mix here.
If you watch the first new Spider-Man, yeah,
Homecoming, is that what it is?
yes, Homecoming.
Okay.
There's a scene where Happy is like helping them move some stuff around, like he's
Mm-hmm.
packing up the place, and I'm one of the workers that's like picking up, cargo and looking through it. I
Nice.
got a white hat on. You can see my butt and my back and all that good stuff. And I'm
Cool.
just sitting there helping that. And then there's one in the movie Need for Speed. These are my two biggest ones where you can see me. If you remember Need for Speed
Oh yeah.
with Aaron Paul, I walk right in between him and the other guy, like I'm like this is me, and you can see my profile like as I'm walking by him. But oh man, that was like my first. That was my first extra experience that I ever. No, maybe my second, but that was a Saturday, and we started. The call time was at 10 a.m. and we went. I kid you not. Dominic, what's his last name, was in that movie too. Cannot remember, English guy. Um, he's a
Sure.
pretty. He was in that movie. Oh, he's been in a lot of weird things. He was the Tony Stark's dad in the first
An Iron
not Winter
Man.
Soldier. Yeah, the Captain America movie.
Oh
He played
gosh.
Tony Stark's dad in that movie, but
I
he
don't
was
know.
in there, and we went from 10 a.m. and they didn't even do a wrap till like 3:20 in the morning the next day. So we were like,
Oh yeah.
and like there were, and this was like a formal scene where we're doing a car show. All the women are wearing their pumps and their heels. We're wearing nice clothes and everything. And that was like some sort of bizarre torture after like
Yeah.
12 hours of it.
Yeah, and that's how it goes for a lot of the extras on set. Is it's just crazy long days. I remember I got to be an extra on the set of First Man, which is
Uh-huh.
a Damien Chazelle film, filmed there at the sound stages in Atlanta. And I was so enthralled by the process, because Damien had just won an Oscar for La La Land, and I knew this film was starring Ryan Gosling, and I was just excited to be part of the mix. And I went in for the first day, and they gave me a haircut. It is the shortest haircut I've ever had. Of course, they wanted me to look, again, it was a period piece, so they cut my hair real short on the sides. I did not even think it looked good, and put me in a little outfit, all for in the final cut. You see me for half a second in a room full of 100 people. So,
Yeah.
I could have had the hair coming down my back and a full beard, and it wouldn't have made a difference. But as it was, I got a terribly short haircut for that. But again, to be part of the process, I was always happy to do it. I'm never going to complain about a paying job, regardless of the hours, just because I'm
Oh
fascinated
yeah.
by the film industry.
Yeah. Yeah. I was on that movie, Hidden Figures, and that
Oh
was
yeah,
a
what a
cool
great movie.
experience. Yeah, and it was at the Dobbins Air Force Base, and they had Kevin Costner on set. He walked past me like 10 feet away. That was a little surreal growing up watching Costner in movies. Kind of like that's actually Kevin Costner walking right by me right now,
Yeah.
and a little bit starstruck at that moment. But I remember talking to a guy when I was sitting at like this. We were sitting in sort of an audience, and I was like, "So what do what do you do, man?" And he was like, "I do this." He was like, "All I do is extra work." He's like, "My wife has a good job with benefits, and I just do extra work as many days as a week as I can here in Atlanta."
Cool. Yeah, and a lot of people do. I mean, that people have made careers out of doing extra work. I wouldn't want to do it, because it's like you said, long, tedious days, and the pay is not, it's not as good as it should be, if I'm being totally honest.
Mhm.
But the people who love it really love it, and they go, they'll sometimes have their laptop there getting work done while they're waiting. But yeah, for the most part, my background experience has involved being on set for Um, 8 hours, only about 30 minutes of which I was out there where the action was, with
Right.
cameras rolling. The rest of the time, I'm just sitting in a holding area trying to resist the snack food that's all over the place, craft services, and chatting. But again, the fun thing for me is always meeting the other people, the other
Yeah.
extras. Everybody has a great story. Some of them work full time, some of them don't. Some of them, like you said, they do that. That's their thing. They go to the extras casting every time there's an opportunity to be on set. The other cool thing I always thought was interesting about extra work is, and I know Tyler Perry is one of the directors who does this. It is not uncommon for an extra to all of a sudden be given lines, spur of the moment, and it's at the discretion of the director, obviously.
Hmm.
And Tyler Perry, I always heard, he would leave little roles uncast until the day of the project for a waiter in a restaurant scene or something, so that he could say, he could go through and look at all the extras and say, okay, you have the look I'm going for, here's your line. Well, all of a sudden your pay goes way up, all of a sudden you have your name in the credits, and that's a better story to tell at the end of the day. Hey, Tyler Perry picked me out and gave me some lines. So I was always quick to tell my students that in the acting classes,
Wow.
if you're interested in doing the extra work, be prepared. Go in there with, you're looking as good as you can, because they might put the camera on you and you might get some lines.
Yeah. I would advise, Kyle, I have to go back and see how many extra roles I've actually done. But anybody that's listening to this, if you're thinking about doing an extra, I would advise, maybe they call them cattle calls when you have like the 100-person plus
Mhm.
roles. That's not ideal, but maybe that's a good idea for your first one. So you'll be kind of in the crowd, but it's best to get as few people as possible if you can get that information before you apply to
Sure.
an extra role.
Yeah.
Um, well, Jay, I know you may have to go. You want to do a few more minutes before we wrap it up here?
Sure. Let's do it.
Okay. So yeah, I was thinking about that, and well, might as well go with that line of thought with acting. So say this is a question I have. I don't know how caught up are you on the acting industry, but say you're a guy that's like in Lower Alabama, maybe you live in Oklahoma, maybe you live in, Montana, Oregon, or something like that, and you're thinking, all right, I'm about to graduate college. I've got money in the bank. I want to go start acting. What's your advice for him to do? Where should he go and what should he start doing?
Ooh, the where should you go is a tough question to answer. Before COVID-19, I would have said, yeah, go to Atlanta or anywhere in the metro Atlanta area, because everything's happening in Georgia. And from what I
Mm,
understand, things have come back online in Georgia. It's taken a little time as we're still filling this out with the new variants and everything. But yeah, my advice would be 100% go for it, especially if you have money in the bank. That's what was so huge for me, is I didn't have that much money saved, so I couldn't just run off and try it, because there are no guarantees in that line of work. You still have to, put gas in a car if you drive one. You still have to eat. You still likely have to pay a cell phone bill, and there are needs in life that require money. But if you have some money and saved up, I'd say absolutely go for it. It doesn't take really any experience to start. Somebody is always going to offer you your first gig, especially if you have the look they're going for. That's what's so crazy to me about this industry is you can, you know, you can do the best audition of your life, just really nail it and be the best looking guy or girl out there, and not get the part simply because you're not what the director was looking for. Maybe in some cases you're too good looking. You're better looking than the lead, and that's not good. They always want the lead to be the better looking person, and so you're denied the part based on that. So yeah, if you think you have what it takes, whatever that may be, the spark that is within you, I would say go out and give it a try. Worst case scenario, you're not going to get cast in anything, and you don't have to continue pursuing that. But I would say go to Atlanta. I would say go to Georgia. Find out. I mean, you can just search on Facebook or Instagram. There's so many different social media pages devoted to the acting industry now, specifically in Metro Atlanta and Georgia as a whole. Um, get on those pages and just start chatting with people and see what they're looking for, what you can help out with. And that was some of the advice that was given to me. Just wander onto film sets. I mean, it sounds crazy, right? They're usually closed sets, but if you just wander onto a film set, talk to the right people, say, how can I help? There was usually something for you to do. You're probably not going to get paid that first day, maybe not even the second day, but if you do good work those first couple of days, it will get noticed, and they will say, okay, let's get your name and phone number so we can get you onto payroll here. And then that's kind of your foot in the door. Is that ideal for acting? no. On the acting side of things, I mean, that would be to just get work in the industry. But as far as being in front of the camera, I would say get plugged in to a good acting school. Acting
Mm.
lessons are not that expensive in Atlanta compared to New York City, Chicago, and Los Angeles. So I'm biased. I would recommend Nick Conti's Professional Actor Studio there in Buckhead. But there's a lot of good acting studios. Nick will be the first one to tell you there's other great acting studios in Atlanta. It's a matter of what works best for you. And it's not just a matter of going to the actor studio to get training, but to meet people, to again find out if this is something that you want to do. Because people will find out that it's not an industry for everybody, and there's a lot of different reasons for that. I mean, there's going to be things that push you as far as your morals and your ethics are concerned, and a lot of people can't stomach the way things go in the industry. I've been one of those people who's had a tough time with some of the ethical dilemmas within the industry, but it is what it is. People like to be entertained. Movies and TV shows are being filmed on a regular basis. And so, yeah, if you've got some money saved up, go for it. If you
Yeah.
go to Nick Conti's actor studio, tell him I sent you.
So you're saying then you're, whatever, you're 25 years old, 30 years old, and you're saying, I'm just going to go for it. I've been working my local, acting, whatever job here in, Topeka. You're saying bypass Los Angeles, don't go there, don't go Chicago, don't go New York, head to Atlanta. It's still,
I'm saying go to Atlanta.
that's still kind of the thing to do, huh?
Based on what my understanding of the industry,
Yeah.
and because there were threats a couple of years ago, people, we're going to pull out of Atlanta because of this and this. We're going to take the tax incentives from Georgia. Georgia still has the tax incentives. That's one of the reasons it's done so well. I just did a news story out here on the Michigan film industry, what it used to be. It's basically non-existent now, but it could come back at some point. Georgia took these great film incentives for tax incentives for filmmakers that Michigan had. Georgia perfected them and has been reaping the benefits ever since. Meanwhile, I'm trying to get them to start stuff back up here in Michigan now that I'm up here. But
Yeah.
Georgia's done a nice job with the tax incentives for filmmakers. So there's going to be work there. Now, a lot of the casting for those TV and film projects still happens in California, but there's enough of the casting going on in Georgia that there's good opportunities for people. Tons of opportunities.
You could still get noticed. It's still get
100%. Yeah. Worked out for me.
Yeah. Have you heard of any because Georgia's had this going on for almost 10 years, probably. Have you heard of any good success stories that have happened out of somebody like doing that, like starting in Atlanta and like, wow, this guy's a pretty big star nowadays?
Oh gosh.
I can't think of any offhand, but I was just curious.
I don't know of any personal stories. Other than I knew of a guy in the actor studio who had this great deep voice, and he put together a little voiceover reel and was almost immediately picked up. He was cast to be the voice of young LeBron James in a Nike commercial, which, if I remember correctly, paid a cool $50,000 for whatever, a day's work. That was one of his first voiceover opportunities. That's not usually how it works. You don't usually just get a national commercial right up front, but it can happen. And so yeah, I've always heard stories like that, but I guess I don't know of anybody off the top of my head who moved to Atlanta to pursue the dream and is world famous now. I bet they're out there.
I bet they're in the works. It's probably hard to say, but they're probably in the work. There's probably a future Chris Pratt out there that's.
I was just thinking about Chris Pratt, actually. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. That guy, he just moved to LA and said, I'm just going to go for it. So
got all right for him.
Yeah. Well, Jay, I appreciate it. I think we got a lot to cover. I think we could cover more if you want to come back on sometime.
I would love to. Yeah, anytime. I'm happy to update you on life here in Michigan, talk about journalism and the continued world of acting. I'm still doing all of the above out here, so there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we could definitely cover some more and go more in depth on it. Well, thanks for coming on here, Jay.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, have a great one.
Good to talk to you, Gene.
Okay. Thanks for joining us on Talk with It Now. Everybody, have a good day.